The Zone, a place populated by many groups with different motivations and ideas. Among them, one faction stands out as the most widespread, the Loners. Hello Stalkers and welcome to the Anomalous Dugout. In this video we shall take a look at the Loners faction. However, I want to try out something a bit different this time. As you probably know, the topic of free stalkers has already been covered many times before, and I don't like to release videos that only repeat on what's been made by other people. So instead of presenting the Loners faction in a standard way, I prefer to take a new approach by trying to answer the following question. Can the Loners be called a true faction? In the PDA Encyclopedia, Loners are described as stalkers exploring the zone on their own. Most stalkers work this way since being a member of a group takes precious time and part of the loot. Then there are some who simply prefer solitude and independence. From this we get the impression that the Loners are just the stalkers who did not join any other faction. And it is true to a certain extent. Thus, at first glance, the Loners do not appear to be an organized entity like the other groups, and it can be questioned if the Loners are really a proper faction. However, there are many elements which support the idea that free stalkers do indeed form a faction, as we will see in this video. Most likely, the name Loner comes from the early days of the zone, when the area was still vastly unknown and empty of human presence. During these times, only a few individuals would dare to trespass into the zone and brave its dangers, effectively becoming the very first stalkers. It can be assumed these people acted on their own, hence earning the name of Loners. One such man was Guide, who is rumored to be one of, if not the very first ever stalker. Guide seems to even have kept his nature of lone adventurer up to the events of the Stalker games, although he did had acquaintances with other stalkers, most notably the men from S.T.A.L.K.E.R's group. The name Loners has sticked and is still being used, yet it is often replaced by free stalkers or even the neutrals. So at first, stalkers were true loners, going in the zone alone. But by the time the games take place, this changed rather drastically. Long gone were the days of the zone being an empty wasteland, and now you could not travel far without encountering several fellow stalkers. Soon the place filled with all kinds of people, adding even more threat to the existing mutants and anomalies. For these reasons, it is extremely rare to find stalkers exploring the zone on their own, explaining why loners are almost always seen in groups, be it in a small squad or in a larger clan. Being part of a unit seems to be one of the fundamentals of surviving in the zone, which is being taught from the get-go to the newcomers, as we can witness in the Rookie Village. Indeed, experienced loners like Wolf will often take upon themselves to help out the rookies, and it is not rare to see squads composed of a leading veteran accompanied by a few less knowledgeable stalkers. This is such commonplace, in fact, that trying to do things alone can be perceived as stupid or suicidal by other stalkers. For example, Petrucha will not like it at all if you decided to raid the bandit car park alone. Adding up to that, the games showcase many signs that going in the zone alone is a death sentence for most people, from isolated corpses to all the characters who would have died if we did not rescue them, Fox, Yurik, Drifter, and many others. Obviously there are some exceptions to this, with some being able to survive on their own, most notably the main protagonists, but this is clearly not the norm. Thus we have established that, despite the name, loners usually never travel the zone alone, They heavily rely on each other to survive, which is a defining trait of every faction. But free stalkers also need each other to find work. As the years following the birth of the zone passed and the area got more populated, stalkers started to organize. Supply routes were created, trading networks established, and a whole economy and business emerged. Which leads me to my next point. The loners never really work alone because they are part of this system. A system which I believe functions like this. Stalkers collect artifacts within anomalies and sell them to traders. With their connections in the outside world, those traders arrange the deals. Artifacts make their way out of the zone, and in exchange, weapons, ammo, food and other supplies are brought inside, which are directly sold to the stalkers. At the core of this business are traders, such as Sidorovich. However, it also heavily relies on free stalkers to actually do the dirty work. Find the artifacts, secure the trading routes, transport the goods. It is a mutually beneficial system in which the traders and other important figures provide jobs, and the loners carry out the missions and get paid. In that sense, the loners are the main workforce of the zone, and it is in their interest to take part in this system. Therefore, whether or not they complete their tasks alone, they still heavily rely on this organized network which connects all of them. A good example of this is the artifact trade set up by Beard at the Skodowsk. Now, being a loner is not just about the business, because pretty much all the factions take part in a similar system, including the loners' nemesis, the bandits. What separates the free stalkers from the bandits is what we call the Stalker Code. Father Valerian describes it as follows. Being a stalker means being human. Help your friends in tough times. Don't rat them out or stab them in the back. Share your medkits and rations with them. Cover their backs in a fight, and sleep under the same roof or by the same fire. This simple code, while not as strong as the ideologies and rules found in factions like Duty or Freedom, is still enough to hold the loners together. This was especially true when there was an important figure to be the leader, along with a common threat for the stalkers to fight against. In Clear Sky, a very large number of free stalkers united under the leadership of Father Valerian to defy the military, and later on go to war with the bandits. Also in Clear Sky, a significant group of loners led by Orest settled in the Agroprom, under the constant raids of bandits. Later in Shadow of Chernobyl, squads led by Bess and Seri sticked together to repel bandit attacks in the garbage, and the members of Mole's group fought side by side against the army. A few expert stalkers connected to Barkeep also teamed up to push through Pripyat. Speaking of the Ghost City, in Call of Pripyat, stalker communities were established at the Skodowsk and at Yanov Station. These are just a few examples of how the loners can and will get organized like a true faction. Not to mention some of these groups had independent traders, technicians and medics, who provide complete medical assistance for free, by the way. These important characters help to further connect the loners to the business network of the zone. Moreover, the neutrals also share information. This may not seem like a big deal, but information in the zone is crucial and can be sold at a high price. Despite this, experienced loners won't hesitate to share their knowledge for free if it can help a fellow stalker. Just like Pilot will tell you what he knows about anomalies, and Trapper will explain his tactics of mutant hunting. Now, not all stalkers decide to follow the code, and there are always some who think they can outsmart the system. Senka, Magpie, Tuna and Snag are some names that come to mind. Yet, the common point between those characters is that things usually end very badly for them. Rumors and talks among stalkers spread extremely fast in the zone, so you can be sure that anyone breaking the code will be quickly identified, and their actions won't stay unpunished. More often than not, this results in a bounty being placed on your head by very influential people like Barkeep or Sidorovich. Thus, someone who refuses to play by the Loner's faction rules will end up on the run, chased by the very men they betrayed, leading to a complete isolation from the previously mentioned economic system, and therefore the inability to find work, earn money, and resupply. Basically, trying to screw over the free stalkers is not a good idea, and individuals who did so often had to resort into hiding or turning to other factions to continue to survive. Many examples of this were featured in the trilogy. Let's take a look at one of them in each of the 3 games. Beginning with Shadow of Chernobyl, we have Vampire, a loner who was suspected of killing his partners in order to keep all the loot for himself. He later set up a scam with a group of other dishonest stalkers, but we can be sure that their little business didn't make it far, as the barkeep put a bounty on Vampire's head. Then in Clear Sky there is Stringoff, a garbage digger who acted as a mole for the bandits. Unfortunately for him, this meant being rejected by both loners and bandits. Indeed, he would either die trying to set up an ambush to the diggers, or be eliminated on the order of the bandit leader, Yoga. Lastly, we need to talk about Snag from Call of Pripyat. This shady character is first found at Skodowsk, offering a mission to retrieve a loot case. If the player purchases a special weapon from Nimble, Snag will pretend that the gun was stolen from him, and hire bandits to rob Major Dektyrev. Once again, associating with the thugs would prove to be a bad decision, as Snag can later be seen at the mercy of one of the bandits, and it is up to us to decide his fate. From these experiences, I understand that when a loner betrays the moral code of his faction, he does not have a lot of options left. Turning to the bandits appears to be a common path to take for such people, as it can be the only way to get back into a faction. Though we've seen that counting on the bandits can also backfire pretty badly. Still, I believe this could explain why there are so many bandits in the zone. Bandits are not simply composed of people who were criminals in the outside world, but also of many men who could not fit within the Loner's faction, be it because they broke the Stalker Code or for other reasons. Obviously, things are more complicated than this, and the bandits also have their own agenda. But this is a topic for another time. To conclude, in this video we defended the idea that, yes, the Loners are indeed a true faction, mainly for the 3 following reasons. 1. Surviving alone in the zone is extremely difficult, therefore free stalkers have to rely on comrades and work together in order to achieve results. This is even more true when something major is threatening stalker activities, such as bandits or the military. 2. Free stalkers are part of a larger economic system which relies on traders and other important figures to function. Hence, they also need to rely on and work with these people too, otherwise they won't find jobs, won't earn money, and won't be able to buy food and other equipment. And 3. Loners follow a stalker moral code that promotes camaraderie and selflessness. Anyone breaking the code will be considered a traitor and exposed to dire consequences. Overall, I hope I was able to get the message across, and if you have a different opinion, make sure to share it in the comments below. Thanks for watching, stalkers, and goodbye.